You're listening to a Monster Kid podcast.
Why don't we rent a video tonight?
Yeah, can we please?
On a weeknight?
Yeah, come on, Mom. It's okay.
Sure. Come on. Let's throw caution to the wind.
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Vericon Video, a show where we relive forgotten and unforgettable movies that once lined the shelves of video stores everywhere. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jordan.
And today we're settling into our second episode of our chat series with none other than Roger L. Jackson, a man with over 200 voice acting credits whose voice you're sure to recognize. Halloween ain't over until Ghostface speaks. It's a scream, baby. So sit back, relax, and welcome.
Welcome to the Cafe 80s, where it's always morning in America, even in the afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I have the only gun on board. Welcome to Con Air.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Okay, good evening, America, and welcome aboard Apollo 13.
I'm so glad you could come. This is going to be such an exciting day. I hope you're enjoying it. I think you will.
How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. How you been holding up, hunkering down at home?
All right. Getting along. Well, my wife and I just got back from our last grocery raid before the Civil War starts.
Well,
We're probably going to have to get a couple of bottles of wine and sit down.
we're good on the essentials up here, I think.
I don't really listen to podcasts or watch them. I don't even have much time to keep up on the TV shows. I love movies and television, but my wife is, well, we watched a movie. Isn't that enough?
Some friends and I, we do this Monster Kid movie marathon every Halloween. And so every day we do a new Halloween movie watch. And so that's been pretty fun this past month, and kind of sad that that's all over now. But
I've been recording a few to try to show my wife, and I dug out some old silence to show her, like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and
Classic.
yeah,
Waxworks, the most silent German. I have a bunch of stuff for her to watch, like the Vincent Price Wax Museum, and I can't even think. Whenever people ask me, what's your favorite scary movie? There's so many horror movies I love. I just tell them, well, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you the scariest movie I've ever seen, the movie that frightened me more than anything. It's a documentary, Titicut Follies, by the great Frederick Weissman. Have you ever seen that?
I've seen some Wiseman. I haven't seen that one exactly.
I think it's the film that brought him to fame, because it was filmed in about 1962 or 63 at the Massachusetts State Hospital for the Criminally Insane.
Mhm.
And what's really frightening is that you can't tell who is crazier, the warders or the inmates.
huh.
And you
Okay.
actually witness a murder, the guy who's being force-fed.
I'll look it up and try to find it somewhere.
Just added that to the list. I'm behind on my Wiseman. I had to watch, because I took a documentary course in college. I watched his high school one, and I think I watched one other one, but I'm behind otherwise in terms of his stuff. But I will get to that one, because if it is frightening, then I imagine it's worthy of being seen.
A huge body of work. It would take a long time to get through, especially since some of them are 4, 6, 8 hours long.
Yeah.
I like to see his new one, The Hall, but Titicut Follies is you'll see.
Okay.
They just showed it on TCM, so they might still have it in their.
I'll seek it out
Scannable.
one of these days.
But I guess just to kick us off, like, you're a voice actor, of course, best known as the voice in the Scream films and Mojo Jojo from Powerpuff Girls. You've done a wealth of other diverse stuff, including work on countless video games. And I was even delighted to learn you voiced the Cheshire Cat in the American McGee's Alice PC games I played as a kid. But what little I've read about you or just learned about you from following you on Twitter, you're also a lover of theater, literature, and other creative arts, as well as classic cinema. What helped develop your fascination with movies growing up?
Well, I guess it all started watching TV as a kid, and I started doing puppetry when I was about 4 years old, and that led to an interest in performing. So friends and I would do skits and sketches at school or school plays. And then I studied theater, almost went to the drama department at NYU, but I had to have a sidetrack. So I became a commercial artist for 20 some odd years. By that point, I was already freelancing art. And I kept my hand in, doing recordings. I taught myself engineering and sound design, and I would make home tapes for friends and stuff. I love animation, love cartoons. I wanted to get into animation or do voice work, but I knew I didn't know the business. I didn't know how to do a demo tape, how to approach an agent. And where I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area, a school opened up, and I enrolled for classes there. And that's what got everything rolling. Everything started.
Very nice. Like flashing forward a little bit, are there any memories about the video store going experience that are or were special to you as a film fan?
Oh, it was sort of like going to comic book shops when I was younger. Just spend hours roving the halls, scanning over films, and of course, checking them out to watch. Have you ever been to Eddie Brandt's in Los Angeles?
I haven't.
I haven't either.
That's probably the greatest video store I've ever been in. They had not just commercial tapes, but homemade tapes from all over the world, skewered commercials, cartoon series, movies that weren't available anywhere. And it was this like converted, it was much bigger than a garage, but the aisles were about just big enough two people could squeeze by each other, and it was floor to ceiling videos. You could find so much incredible stuff there. That's probably the best store I've ever been to, but just as soon as videos came out, I was there. That was it. Hello, I'll just move in here. And I started building my own collection. And then laser discs got cheap. So I bought a laser disc player. And this was at a time when Siskel and Ebert were really talking up laser discs, and the prices dropped. I bought a laser disc player with the idea of copying the laser disc to video for my collection.
Oh, yeah.
But when I bought the player, I bought 2 discs to go with it. Seven Samurai and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Good choices.
Nice. 2 of the greatest films.
Yeah.
So, if you collect this stuff, you keep having to recollect stuff as things, you get better copies or better editions as new versions come out, cleaned up versions, so you keep recollecting.
It's a lot to keep up with because even now with the 4K Blu-rays and such, and yeah, like there's so many things that I've had on VHS that I had to get on DVD and then Blu-ray, and I don't even have a 4K television yet, but I'm probably going to have to get one at some point because of that.
Never underestimate a company's ability to reproduce media.
Yeah.
They will keep doing so, and they'll do the ultimate editions and the best of all those. I mean, and we'll keep eating them up, of course.
Yeah.
The sad thing, or the thing that amazes me, is there's such a catalog of films that aren't available. They used to be available on VHS, and they're not available on DVDs or Blu-rays, or a lot of them even laser discs. I mean, great films like The Wind with Lillian Gish, or Lead Belly with Roger Mosley. Great film directed by Gordon Parks. There's just so much stuff being neglected in the catalogs of these studios that they could bring out.
Like just the way we consume media has drastically changed over the years. The decline of physical media, the rise of streaming. I don't know, do you feel like we may have lost something in that communal aspect of picking and watching movies together as like a shared experience because of that?
Oh, very much so. I think the best way to watch movies is in a theater with an audience, because the way I like to describe it is it's the closest thing we have to collective dreaming. A bunch of people crawl through the hole into the cave like our ancestors used to do and watch the flickering images. They painted their images and looked at things painted by their ancestors on the walls, but we crawl into our caves and watch these stories, the flickering images that enter into our minds and our hearts and become part of us. That's definitely the best way to see a film.
Yeah.
But it's great to be able to have available. And I'm sorry, but I hate streaming. I am a big proponent of physical media, discs, whatever. You got to have it, because otherwise they can just take it away from you.
Exactly.
If something goes wrong with your computer and your memory gets wiped out, you've lost everything you've saved there. Watch a film while it's going to be or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be, give me the disc.
Yeah, it's not the same. Or with streaming, like you're not able to have some kind of ownership,
right,
and participate in that experience in the same way. It seems so much more ephemeral.
Yeah, it's like immediate accessibility without actually putting an actual tag on it and having it like in perpetuity. You get to experience this whenever you want. It's very much artificial, I think, is the best word I can think of for it. But it's what they want. It's what they want the future to be.
Yeah,
they want to control what you see. So if you own the discs, you can watch it anytime. You can show it to people. But with streaming, they decide to take it off their feed. Oops, too bad. You should have bought it. But
there's several movies. Like I'm a big physical media collector, and there are so many great films that I would love to loan out to friends of mine, but I don't have a DVD player. And so even the way they market films has changed. Like at least in the days of the video store and home video in general, it was a prized asset in marketing to create a really great cover art. And it just seems so lazy now, or like talent is used to sell the movie rather than create a mood or a sense of the story.
Yeah, and you know what's worse? Don't you hate it when you watch the trailers for a film and they just put the whole movie out there?
Yeah, there's no effort to tease anymore.
I will go to my wife's trailer. She just goes, well, there's no point in watching the movie now.
Right. And Jordan and I, we had just talked about The Addams Family, the 1991 film, and it had the time of its release, had this really great short, what was it, Jordan, 30 seconds, 50 seconds?
Yeah, it was just 30 seconds, especially made it to be a trailer, and it was just done up to just tease the idea of the movie and just put it in theaters and not actually do any of the content of the movie. It's when studios would do that rather than just give everything away or just give away the most important.
Right. There's not anything there to whet the appetite of the audience anymore.
First trailer for The Shining was just blood in the elevators. That was it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You want to see them, and a lot of times they were better than the movies themselves.
Yeah. I miss going to the movies just to see the trailers, because that's how, at least I'm 35, but when I was a kid, that's how I learned what was coming up at the theater. So I always had to get there early enough for the trailers. But now it's the thing that people talk through, and they don't really care that much about that part of the experience anymore.
Yeah.
Another thing, so Scream was one of the films that I associate with the video store experience going up, and just seeing a wall of them in the new releases section and hearing friends talk about it, which I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on home video. But I guess, what was it like for you and your inner circle when the film came out, and seeing how your contribution to the film landed with this new generation of budding horror fans?
I'm glad it was really popular. At that time, I didn't go to conventions, so I didn't get to meet people much who had seen it. A lot of people I know, they go, "Oh, I don't like horror movies. Oh, they're so terrible." But they're the ones who were slowing down to look for blood at auto wrecks.
Right.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I went to see it in the theater, and I had no idea what it was going to be like. But I knew the moment I saw him plunge the knife into Drew Barrymore, this was going to be a good movie.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of the same feeling I had the first time I saw It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yeah.
And you see Mr. Gow slap young George up against the head, and you see the blood coming out of his ear. And I thought, all right, this is not going to be some sentimental dumbass Christmas movie. This is going to have some teeth.
It came out in a particularly cultural moment where the landline phone made people vulnerable. Like, this was before caller ID, which was capitalized on in so many horror films, like When a Stranger Calls comes to mind, or even Black Christmas. Yeah. That veil of anonymity that it afforded the stalker character. And Scream brought that potential threat back to the forefront again. And in preparing for our meeting today, I watched this little Q&A with you at some con, talking about developing that voice, something a little interesting, a little sexy, knowing when to put a little texture on it, when to oscillate between flirty and non-threatening to that darker cat with its paw on a mouse's tail kind of thing. It's dynamic. It just embodies so much mystique that it's become iconic all its own, adjacent to the Ghostface character. So why do you think it still resonates or stands out?
Well, partly just the great writing. Kevin Williamson's a great writer.
Yes.
And when I did the audition, I was there with a lot of other people auditioning to do this. And the audition was that first scene. And it was all there, everything you needed to know. And I think as a fan of horror movies himself, Williamson knew what to write to. You know, the way I heard it when we were working on it was every scene in the film is based on a scene from another horror. So he knew these movies. He knew people who knew these movies. He knew lots of Randys, I'm sure. A lot of Randys. And they would talk about all that. I think that's a large part of why it's still pertinent today. He created the brilliant story. It was all there. And the movie turned out to be one of those that's sort of more than the sum of its parts. You know, all the right people were cast, great crew, Wes Craven, Marianne Magdalena. It was like kismet.
Yeah.
Everything came together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that was a time when people were getting bored with horror movies. It's sort of like, you know, there were so many Westerns on the go in the 60s. People started getting sick of them. They were all over the TV. You go to the movies, that's all there is. And then, I hate to say it because I grew up with comic books. I loved comic books. They were a big part of my input, but I'm getting really tired of these superhero movies. I sat in the audience at Man of Steel.
Superman, yeah.
The new Superman. And I'm sitting there, you know, it's got a great cast. Lawrence Fishburne is great in everything.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there going, when the hell are they going to stop destroying buildings and get back to some story?
Yeah.
I got that. And Man of Steel is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Scream at the time. They thought he was nuts for making the movie Wes, because it's just going to be another teenager slasher movie and they're a dime a dozen. But, you know, it was kind of like what happened with Hitchcock. They thought Hitchcock was washed up. He had his television series and they thought, well, he's an old man. His best movies are behind him. And he took his TV crew and for a few bucks made Psycho. I mean, Psycho.
I love that movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love that one. Perfect in every way. Never needed to be remade either.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have very strong opinions about that, including Joe Dante in a documentary I just watched not too long ago.
Which is that?
In Search of Darkness. It's streaming only on Shudder. It's like a 4-hour documentary on horror films of the 80s.
Oh, cool.
I don't have Shudders. I love Joe Dante. What you talk about video store magic, that man was amazing. Another film lover. And he started out at Corman Studios editing trailers. So he knows everything from the ground up. He's such a brilliant director.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Matinee?
Matinee,
Were
yeah.
you just talking about that one, Brandon? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just rewatched that last week. It's such a great film.
It's incredible. It's great. It's so sweet and it's scary, but the monster is us. It's Atomic War.
Yeah.
More of the old Corman crew, John Sayles and Dick Miller as the two guys working for John Goodman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dick Miller is just, you must have seen that documentary on Dick Miller.
I love seeing him show up. I know he shows up in a lot of Joe Dante's projects, but I saw him, I was watching? Chopping Mall. He showed up in that. Yeah.
He shows up in Night of the Creeps as well for a brief moment, I believe. So he's in and out of a lot of those great 80s horror-ish comedy movies, which is always great to see him pop up in.
Yeah.
You see Walter Paisley, right, in Bucket of Blood?
I haven't seen that.
That's another great video store movie. You go, what is this? It's another Roger Corman. He plays a busboy at a beatnik cafe who desperately wants to be hip and cool. So he tries to be an artist, but he's terrible at it. But one day he kills a cat and it falls into some clay. He covers the clay and leaves the knife in, and all the beatniks go, man, that's incredible. What great art. And you can imagine where the story goes from there. Wow. And in a lot of subsequent movies, he plays characters named Walter Paisley.
Amazing.
Yeah, I had read that, but I will check that out now. That sounds right up my alley.
And Pete Corman, you can't go wrong.
Roger, I'm reminded of this interview that I was thinking about. I'd read it in Starlog magazine way back in the mid-90s. It was an interview with Mark Hamill, and he was talking about running into fans of Batman the Animated Series in the aisles of Toys R Us who would ask him to speak as the Joker. And he would ask them to turn around as he did it. And I've always remembered that. And I know that, like on the set of Scream, I'd read that you and some of the cast hadn't met face to face to get a better reaction out of them on the phone. And in later interviews following the film's release, you were often in silhouette. And so could you talk a little bit about preserving that mystery around the source of a created voice and keeping that mystery alive?
Well, I think largely that was Wes and Mary Ann's idea. And I wholeheartly endorsed it because I'm a fan of old radio theater and audio theater, like the Fire Sign Theater. If you've ever listened to them, just old radio shows. Nothing as scary as the monster you can make in your own mind. And they didn't need a lot of special effect on these shows like X the Unknown or Suspense or Art Obler's Lights Out Everybody. So, well, originally I was hired just to play the scene with Drew, Ms. Barrymore, since I've never met her. But they liked what I was doing, so they kept me on. And I think it was kind of a superstitious thing, maybe. They decided to keep the whole thing going, keep me isolated from people so they didn't have an image to associate with, have me live on the set playing the scene instead of dubbing it all later. And I think it worked great. We were able to do things like start improvising and adding stuff that some of it made it into the movies. That's all out the window now, what with going to conventions and YouTube and so forth. Because, look at me. I mean, I would kill people if I could, but I don't look like the type to do it. My wife will hate when I say that. Don't say that. You shouldn't have said that. But, I don't look threatening. That's the beauty of doing voice work is you can beat anything.
Yes.
Anyone. I've done a lot of monsters and beasts and animals and so forth in my work.
So would you say it's an advantage as a voice actor, like being able to create a larger degree of separation from you as a performer and the voice itself? Like, so it becomes this disembodied thing with a life all its own?
Yeah, it's a lot like, animation and this. It's a lot like mask work in theater. It's the mask allows you to separate character from the actor. So like in ancient Greek drama, it was all performed in mask because most of the audience knew these actors. But the mask allows you to see the character. That's why if you have Robert Redford playing Jesus Christ, you're going to see Robert Redford as Jesus Christ. But in an animated version, you have someone else playing Jesus. They will see Jesus. But then big actors put feet in seats, as it used to be. So they try to hire big movie and television people to do animated films or video games, thinking it will help sell them more.
You'd mentioned earlier about like conventions and stuff. I haven't been to one in probably a decade or more, but in my experience, it seemed like fans, at least in the horror community, are so loyal and enthusiastic compared to those in other genres. And how has your experience generally been with fans that you've met at those?
They are the greatest. That's why I like going to conventions. My wife and I always go together. We work the conventions together. And getting out and meeting the people who like your work, the people who help put you where you are, is incredible. It's like, they say that theater is an actor's medium because they control what's going on. You control what's going on stage, and you get the immediate feedback from a live audience. But recorded media like film or audio or whatever are a director's medium because they control the performance by taking pieces of different takes or whatever and putting together what they want. So when you go to the conventions, you're meeting the audience live, and I like to play with them. Sometimes if we sell scripts for Scream at our booth, and if somebody buys a script, I like to play that opening scene with them. So we're standing there performing it. Hundreds of people are walking all around you. I only make popcorn when I'm going to watch a movie, and they're playing along with you, and it's fun to meet these folks, and they're so nice, so appreciative, and I appreciate it a lot.
Right idea about it.
That's really great to hear. I think I had stopped going to conventions about 10 years ago because I think the culture was starting to change, and you could tell that a lot of people in attendance were really trying to, I guess, push the more commercial side of them being there, or didn't seem to really want to be there for the fans. It was just to make a buck. And it was very off-putting, unfortunately. But hopefully whenever we're able to go to conventions again, hopefully I'll be surprised that will have changed a little bit.
Yeah, when all this opens up, I'm probably going to try and go to more of them. I didn't go to enough before, I guess.
Well, that just comes down to the people. It's who the people are. I mean, it's just like with everybody else, you know. I appreciate my fans. I try to be nice to them. I sign a signature that you can read. I talk to them, you know. I play with the kids if they brought some kids with them. Because these are the people that help make you what you are. Thank you. Thank you all so much. There are some people who, I mean, I've seen some people who say, well, when I have to sign these, I throw back a couple and I sit there and go, Shatner 1, Shatner 2, Shatner 3. And I just think it's rude not to show your appreciation. So that's what I mean. It all comes back to who the people are. There are a lot of great people out there. Tony Todd is such an incredible guy. I met him at the first convention I ever attended as a guest. And I told him, you know, he was Candyman at the time. I told him, I really liked you in 84 Charing Cross Road with Anne Bancroft because he plays the guy who's plastering the walls in her condo that they're turning over. So what do you mean? I have to move out of here. He goes, hey, lady, I'm just doing my job. Why don't you get off my back, you know? But it's Tony Todd for about a minute in this movie. Great. And he said, yeah, that was my first movie. I did that before Platoon, but Platoon came out first. And there's so many wonderful people. And you get to see some folks who aren't so well known nowadays who are still out there for the fans. I mean, nice people are nice people. Good people are good people wherever you go.
Yeah. Have you watched anything lately that you'd recommend?
Right now, the first thing that comes to mind that I've loved every season so far, but I think this season of Fargo is incredible.
Gotta get on that.
Chris Rock is an amazing performer. He's a really, really good actor and one of the best comedians we have going. He's an example of people like George Carlin, who are stand-up philosophers. He's a very smart man, and that comes out in his work. And this whole cast, anytime I get to see Glenn Turman is good for me. He's a great actor who was, as a young man, he was in Cooley High, sort of Black American Graffiti. You know, in Gremlins, he was the high school teacher. And he's been in a lot of stuff. Another terrific actor that not enough people are familiar with.
Thank you again for recommending A Night to Remember, by the way, because Jordan, I was watching Titanic. I posted about it on Twitter, and Roger commented, well, you should check out A Night to Remember. And I happened to find it on the Criterion channel. It was streaming there.
Yeah,
and
great.
Yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful transfer. Look, it's such a great film.
Yeah, it's a really good film. And, you know, the drunken cook was George Rose, who most people know more as the Major General from Pirates of Penzance with Kevin Kline.
Oh.
No, that was a good movie. Very good movie. I love all kinds of movies.
Are there any recent or upcoming projects, appearances, or anything you'd like to mention?
I have some books on tape out there. I have a new one coming out relatively soon. They're available through audio and Audible and Amazon. I hope people might be interested in checking those out. I have a website in construction for the time of our plague here. I put up some little story readings just for people to have some amusement. I don't know if anybody goes to listen to them because nobody's ever commented on them, but they're on my website, rogerljackson.com, and you get the under construction page, and then at the bottom there's a more that'll take you to story time. And there are a few things posted there. I did a couple of things for Halloween that are on there.
Yeah.
I'm looking for work.
Yeah, I did get to listen to the first 2 stories on your website, and it's delightful. I mean, you've got some Dr. Seuss on there, some Hans Christian Andersen, poem by Thomas Hardy, a few Halloween miniatures, which were great. Just really fun and wholesome experience all around. And like you said, especially great now while so many of us are hunkering down at home. I'm enjoying them. I'm looking forward to more of those.
People have kind of gone away from audio drama or they think of books on tape, but there's a lot of great audio theater, audio comedy. If you've never listened to the work of Nichols and May, Mike Nichols and Elaine May, both of whom became great film directors. I mean, Mike Nichols directed The Graduate, Catch-22, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Elaine May directed A New Leaf, Mikey and Nicky, with John Cassavetes and Their comedy, there's a whole album of improvisations they did while someone was playing a little classical piano in the background. It's
Awesome.
all clean improvised. The Firesign Theater were like amazing. Put on your headphones and listen to some of the audio quality of these things. Their album, Everything You Know Is Wrong, should be a national treasure preserved in the archives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check out
Glowing
Audio
recommendation.
Figure, folks.
I got to check that out now.
Let's see, you're also on
I have
Cameo, right?
Yeah, thankfully, folks are commissioning cameos. That means a lot.
Good.
Yeah, I bet you were very busy last month.
Pretty busy, thankfully. It's tough times, but like Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep walking.
Yes.
Well, Roger, we really appreciate you taking time to sit down with us and chat a bit. It's been a lot of fun. It's been interesting and definitely excited to see and hear more from you in the years to come.
Yes.
You let me run my mouth probably too much, but thanks. And this was fun. Let's do it again sometime.
Okay, it's a deal.
Pick on one movie. You can cut this out, but one movie last New Year's, I put up on Twitter my hopes or goals for 2020. And one of them was to make a movie with the Suska sisters. Another one was to be a TCM guest host. And if I were a guest host, one of the movies I would show, which they actually show quite a bit on TCM, but I don't think enough people know it. If you haven't seen it, do. Best Years of Our Lives.
Oh, yeah.
Directed by William Wyler. You know the film.
Yes. Classic. Frederick March, Harold Russell, I believe was the name of the guy who won the Oscar for it. Wartime film. Excellent.
One of my favorite character actors, Roman Bonin, plays Dana Andrews' father. And he's so incredible. He's got very little screen time, but God, what he communicates. And a lot of people, I've never heard anyone else talk about this. There's a gimmick to the story. It's 3 soldiers returning from the Second World War. An ordinary seaman, played by Harold Russell, who's lost his hands, who is basically like a private. A sergeant, played by Frederick March, who is a sergeant, middle-tier officer. And Dana Andrews plays an Air Force captain, who is a bombardier. But you have the captain, the sergeant, the ordinary seaman. But the ordinary seaman is from the middle class. The sergeant is from the upper class. He's a banker. And the captain is from the lower class. He lived literally across on the wrong side of the tracks with his father when he was growing up in this town. So military rank shuffled with class system. And it's photographed by the great Greg Toland, who shot Citizen Kane, among many other things. But there's so much beautiful photography, great composition in the shots. More people need to see it. I mean, I could talk about that movie for hours, literally. All the little grace notes by the different actors, the scenes, the script. Be sure to watch Fearless Vampire Killers. Directed by and stars Roman Polanski. It's a great horror comedy, and that's the movie where he met his future wife, Sharon Tate, who would end up meeting Charles Manson.
Yeah. Gosh, I've got some homework to do. I've got a lot of great films to watch now.
Yeah, it's always good to have recommendations, of course.
See, you can't stop me talking movies. No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Jordan.
And so that was our chat with Roger L. Jackson. We'll have another guest on for our chat series very soon.
And now, coming soon to video cassette.
Coming up, we'll be talking about Hudson Hawk from 1991, directed by Michael Lehman, starring Bruce Willis. Until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon, right back here at Vericon Video.
Goodbye, Vietnam! That's right. I'm history. I'm out of here. I got the lucky ticket home, baby.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Jenny.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle. Goodbye.
Do take good care of yourself.
What is this, your farewell speech? Going home. Have a good trip.
Hasta la vista, baby. I have to go.
Adieu, auf Wiedersehen, Gesundheit.
Farewell.